In this video, I'm going to talk about what I've learned about the countryside in terms of growing up, as I've seen some videos where people talk about what they've learned about the countryside as they move from the city to the countryside, but I want to share some things that I've learned about the countryside in terms of what it's like growing up, seeing friends, some of the challenges and struggles that we face in terms of transport, winter, and the internet in terms of like phone reception and having slow internet. But I'll be talking about them all individually, as this could be quite a long video, so let's get into it. So first is friends. When I went to school, I got picked up by a spot in the countryside as a bus would come into rural areas and pick up children on the way to school, as some schools in rural areas would have a school bus that would go and pick up children and take them to school and back home when school finished. But some schools that had more children would have more buses, as some children will come from different places in the countryside to school, as I will play with my friends during break time and lunchtime. But after school had finished, I will contact them through social media, as most of the time I will be with my family in the countryside. Friends were quite far away, as most of my friends were living in another place in the countryside. In other words, I would see when they got up to the school bus, as they lived in the countryside, just in another village or town that was far away from where I lived. Some friends who came to school would take quite a long time to get to school, as it would take them longer to get to school and back home. The second one is transport. When I went to places like the doctor or maybe to a shop to get something, it would take quite a long time to get there, as most of the time you would have to travel a very long way to get there. It would take a long time to get there, as most of the time you would have to travel a long way to get to a place. But if you lived in a village or town that had bus stops, as some villages and towns would have more than one bus stop, as the bus stops will be at different places in the town or village for people to go to get onto the bus, as the bus would come to the bus stops and pick up the people on its way to town and would take them back home if they got a return ticket, or if they bought a ticket that would take them to a place or home rather than getting a return ticket, as sometimes I've got onto the public bus to get into town and back, which sometimes has saved some time so I don't have to travel a long way to get there, depending on where I'm going. The third is winter. Sometimes it comes to winter in the countryside. There were times when the snow froze onto the roads, making it tricky to get up the road. If you live in the countryside, you may know that sometimes it can get worse during the winter, when the snow freezes on the road and turns into ice, making it hard to get a grip of the road. When the snow freezes on the road and turns into ice, making it harder to get a grip on the road, as some roads in the countryside can become slippy, making it hard to get to places, as sometimes in the past there have been times where I've had to stay at home, as some of the roads that were slippy, as some of the roads went uphill were hard to get up, as some of the roads were closed when there was ice on the road, which made it hard to get up the road. And to keep warm during the winter, some houses in the countryside don't keep warm, as the only way to keep the house warm is to keep the open fire going by putting coal and wood onto the open fire to keep it burning, as open fires keep the house warm during the winter when it's cold. All these trips in the countryside, it can be very isolating, as not as many people are travelling, as most of the time it can sometimes just be like once in a lifetime trip where you may go to somewhere that you've never been to before, or maybe a place that you may go to once a year or something, as most of the time there's nothing much that happens in the countryside, as it can be very isolating, as not as many people live in the countryside. The last time that I went on a trip to like somewhere that I like never been to before was Blackpool Pleasure Beach, as I remember when I went there for the first time when I went onto a roller coaster, which did scare me, as the roller coaster gave me a jump in terms of how fast it went, as for a start off it went uphill then went downhill, as it felt like a bump or like a rumble every single second on the roller coaster, which sort of made me refuse to go on any ride that was fast, as I do prefer rides that are slow and steady. And some of the trips that I've been on are like trips with school for a few days, like London, or maybe just a day trip out somewhere that I've never been to before, like Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Fifth is events. In some rural areas in the countryside, most events run once a year, but it depends, as sometimes in villages and towns there have been times when there's been coffee mornings every week on a day of the week, as people go to them, have a drink, sit down and eat a biscuit, and sometimes there are stalls that run coffee mornings as people sell homemade cake, like cupcakes, and raise money for charity. There sometimes may be games like a tombola, where people pay 50p or 25p per go, and get a number out of a box and get whatever is on that number. But some events like sports days where families will take their children to a village or town, depending on where you live, as sports days run once a year in rural areas, as people go to them and children compete in races, and the first to finish gets a prize, but second, third and fourth still get a prize, but may not be as much as first, depending on who wins the race and comes second, third and fourth. And another event that runs in the countryside is barbecues, as people go to them and have a chat as they buy a burger and have a chat with friends and family. And there may be some stalls that run in the hall in terms of like homemade cake and sometimes drinks and other things, but most of the time events in the countryside run once a year, depending on the time of the year, as some may run during Easter when schools are off, or during the summer like a barbecue. And the last one is internet in rural areas in the countryside. By the way, I forgot to add in, the internet can sometimes be very slow at times, and if my voice sounds deep, it's because I got a cold, as there have been times when it's taken a very long time for something to upload onto the internet, or just to see what has been happening on social media recently, as there have been times where we've used social media to do things, which has sometimes made things a lot better, but sometimes not much, but it depends on what mobile network you're on, as in the past I've been on some network that only get phone reception at a window, but others have had slightly better phone reception, but it depends on your location, as in some places in rural areas may not have good phone reception as others, as some may not have phone reception at all in some place. And if you have any questions or anything that you want to ask, if there's anything that I mentioned in this video that you could relate to, in the comment section below, and drop a like if you enjoyed this and found it helpful, and if there's anything you want me to make a video on, in the comment section below, and make sure you subscribe down here, click into the video, click down into the video, stay positive and I'll see you next video.